the Steady Wish. Today, we're going to talk about Trump. I've been hearing in the news that Trump wants to terminate, suspend, get rid of the Constitution. So let's dig into that and see what the truth is and what it means. So, right here we have an article from USA Today, Yahoo News, USA Today. And the title of the article is Trump calls for suspending the Constitution. The silence from Republicans is deafening. So some colorful language in the beginning, comparing Trump to a dictator. So then they say what Trump says here, right here. In a post on his social network Truth Social, Trump either ignorantly or purposefully misinterpreted a report about Twitter's moderation decisions during the 2020 campaign and wrote. So, hold on, before we read the quote, that wording right there is ignorantly or purposefully misinterpreted a report about Twitter's moderation decisions. Or I just had an opinion. Anyways, Trump wrote, a massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. So, and then the article goes on to continue to talk about how Republicans aren't saying anything except for Mitch McConnell and some other Republicans that are establishment Republicans. So, yada yada yada. This paragraph here, though, Trump has tried unsuccessfully to backtrack on his comments, but without really backtracking. So, I think what, we'll go over this other article here. Trump refutes claim he wants to terminate the Constitution. So, this is what Trump had to say. The fake news is actually trying to convince the American people that I said I wanted to terminate the Constitution. This is simply more disinformation and lies, just like Russia, and all of their hoaxes and scams. What I said was that when there is massive and widespread fraud and deception, as has been irrefutably proven in the 2020 presidential election, steps must be immediately taken to right the wrong. Only fools would disagree with that and accept stolen elections. MAGA. I thought it was MAGA, Make America Great Again. Or Make America Great and Glorious Again. I thought that was his new phrase. He must not be sticking with that. MAGA. But anyways, so although he's basically saying that he's not saying that he didn't say to that he didn't. Let's read that again. The fake news is actually trying to convince the American people that I said I wanted to terminate the Constitution. So he's saying that he didn't say that. This is simply more disinformation and lies, just like Russia, which was lies, and all of their hoaxes and scams. There's a lot of hoaxes and scams from government and the media. What I said was that when there is massive and widespread fraud and deception, steps must be immediately taken to right the wrong. I mean, he didn't really... Is that what he said? It might be what he meant, but... basically, let's go back to his quote or whatever. A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, articles, even those found in the Constitution. So he's not... I mean, technically he could get away with saying, well, I didn't say I wanted to terminate the Constitution. I just said that this allows for that. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just saying. But either way, if you've been following the Twitter files and the story of the corruption in Twitter, the Twitter space, or that was in the Twitter space, you will see that there is a lot of shady dealings with government. And if you've been following the U.S. history since, I guess, the beginning, you'll realize that the Constitution means very little to those in power. The Constitution, in the end, is essentially just a piece of paper. It means nothing if it's not respected, and I don't think it's been respected since the beginning. The purpose of it is a whole nother matter. The purpose might have been pure and just and another step in the path towards individual liberty, true individual liberty, but like the Magna Carta was a huge step towards that, and then we have, well, the U.S. Constitution and the founding of the country the founders were inspired by the Magna Carta, and the Magna Carta essentially started the whole English common law, and that's kind of what we're built on. And we stopped, or I guess maybe not stopped, but we'll say we stopped moving in the direction that we were moving. And the powers that seek to control us, the state, and now the corporate state, essentially, which always happens if you give the state power, then, well, corporations can buy that power. You buy off politicians, and anyways, the state uses the Constitution to hide behind, essentially, and to also, in a way, make you think that you're free. They've eroded the Constitution to the point where there's very little of it that is left or upheld, and they still point to these politicians on the left and right. They still point to the Constitution like, whoa, you can't. Trump shouldn't say that, man. That's the Constitution. That's what this country was built on and stuff. And it's like, well, we've gotten so far away from it and those particular politicians don't believe in the Constitution. They just use it to get you to believe you have something to fight for, something that the the government is there to do. They make it seem like all the government's there to uphold the Constitution, and without that, without the government, the state, you would not have those constitutional rights. And the reality of that is that in a lot of cases those rights are violated, and we are not living in the free country that the founders intended, and wrote the Constitution, I think, to try to prevent the very scenario that we find ourselves in. Scenario where you own nothing. If the government can take what you have, then you don't own it. If they can legally take what you have, you don't really own it. And they can legally take what you have. Morally, no, it's not. That's a whole nother matter. But you don't have the rights you think you have. Furthermore, the Constitution itself is a document supposed to be a legal document, or act as a legal document, at least. I'm not a lawyer, so between the people and the state. Now, those that wrote it, ratified it, those are the only ones that would be bound by that document. So essentially, what I'm saying is, if you have an agreement between two people, a written agreement, anybody that comes after that, the person's children, one of the party's children, it has nothing to do with them. It legally, they never signed it. They never agreed to it. So, that being said, I never agreed to the laws that we, not just with the Constitution, but any laws that are passed. If I don't have if I don't specifically and individually agree to it or sign anything, then somebody's doing it without my permission on my behalf. And assuming that I'm making that choice, or consenting just based on existing, there's a problem there. But going back to the Constitution, you could see how important the Constitution was during the whole COVID situation that we found ourselves in, where the government at well, at least the state level, was not acting constitutionally in a lot of cases, and federally too. But anyways, basically the government doesn't care about the Constitution. They pretend to, and the Constitution is nothing more than I guess I don't want to say fake. It's an illegitimate at this point in time. It's not legitimate anymore. I mean, it's been so destroyed so much that there's nothing left to it. So it's just something that those in power, the government, or anybody that claims to support it, they use to either make themselves feel better or to make you feel better about life, and try to distract you from the fact that you're not free. But silver lining, by the way, I'm not saying that we should get rid of the Constitution. I probably should have mentioned that from the beginning, because well, but what we need to do with any law or government edict that is either not being upheld or if it's something legitimate, it's not being upheld, or it's something illegitimate that's being enforced, we need to have mass non-compliance in those instances. Because the state can only exist through force, and they cannot force everybody to do their will. They have to use subversive means. That's why they're so involved with social media behind the scenes, and the media before social media even came to be. But the media and they have been, because they want to control you without it being obvious, because then you're more likely to comply. So anyways, that was my rant. Thanks for watching. Takeaway is, technically Trump didn't say we have to terminate or he wants to terminate the Constitution, but even at terminating the Constitution, where would we be at? Those in power don't really respect the Constitution, so thanks for watching. See you next time.